What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Lonzo Star, and we are back with another Concrete Approved. Today we have the lovely Miss Author Montrez. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, it's an honor, man. You've been out here killing the game. A lot of people are starting to recognize who you are and the greatness that you do, and I'm just excited to see that journey. You know, see it manifest into something that we've only imagined, but we know it's possible. You know what I mean? So we're gonna get into some questions today. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna let the people know who we're dealing with here, who we're sitting with here on this Concrete Approved. Um, and Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. So we're gonna get right into it then. So this is my first question right here. Who are you, and how did you get into writing?
Oh man, I'll just say I'm just a girl sitting in front of you all, asking for you to love my stories and just enjoy books. My name's Montrez, and how did I get into writing? Uh, there was honestly never a point where I don't remember loving stories. From the time my parents were telling me bedtime stories, I think it was a chore for them because I would sit them down and say, well, why is Little Red Riding Hood's coat red? Why can't it be purple? Why is she going in the woods? Just finding all kinds of plot holes and stuff. They used to hate telling me bedtime stories, but I remember even from that time loving stories and fiction. And so I want to say that even before I could write, I've been a writer. Storytelling is just kind of infused in my bones and in my DNA. So, yeah.
No, that's dope. So I do have a question then. So where are you from, and does that have any reflection on how you write and what you write about?
So I am from the humble Midwest. Now I notice people are throwing shade, but I'm from the Buckeye State of Ohio.
Uh oh.
And so, people are always talking about how like the Midwest is nothing special or whatever. But Columbus, Ohio is particularly where I come from, and there's just so much culture. I think at one point we were called we were trying to be the Little Apple, like the miniature New York. But stories are everywhere. I really, honestly, I think wherever you are, stories are everywhere if you're looking for them and you know how to stay inspired. But I definitely want to say that my family definitely nurtured that in me. We were always watching sci-fi Saturdays. I
Yeah.
would sit down with my dad. It was always sci-fi. My grandmother had a huge library of all the classics. I mean, her library was probably her library and catalog of movies was probably bigger than, at the time, Blockbusters. Everybody would
Wow.
come to rent movies from her. So, I mean, it was just a huge well of inspiration. My dad
Mhm.
used to have me, we used to crack on each other, and I couldn't use words that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
To build my vocabulary and also some thick skin. I don't know about the thick skin, but he definitely built my vocabulary. So it was just inspiration was everywhere and in everything, and that's something they always nurtured and encouraged in me. So yeah.
Can you remember the first like novel you read through and through, and what that feeling was like?
So it's hard to remember the first because stories have always been such a big part, but I'll say um, one of the books that kind of started the hey, I want to be an author for me was, well, it was a couple of them. Animorphs. It was a huge sci-fi series, and if you've been to our Concrete Comics blog, you'll see a post on it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, yeah, for
Uh,
sure. Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
shameless plug. But that was a huge series that I just absorbed, as a lover of sci-fi. And then being able to see, they're actually one of the first series that I remember seeing, a black girl on the cover.
Hmm.
and having a Black character that, wasn't just like a sidekick. She was a smart and intelligent, gifted individual. And so I remember Animorphs, R.L. Stein was big, Christopher
Oh
Pike,
yeah.
all of those types of books. I loved. I want to say that I'm an unofficial comic book person because I got my comic book love from my father. I didn't really read the
Mm,
comics growing up, but
yeah.
I talked about it a lot. We watched X-Men on TV and stuff, so that was a
Yeah.
big influence. And I want to say that even though, like, I kind of was a secondhand fan, my dad passed it on.
Right.
A lot of the comic book environment kind of inspired my writing as well, because I
Mm,
love how, you have the X-Men. And before we were talking about diversity, before it became big like it is now today, and a lot of
yeah.
the create content, X-Men was diverse,
Oh
um,
yeah. Sure.
had a whole community of people who come from all different backgrounds, looked all different kinds of ways, had all different kinds of powers. And then, even with the fans, it brought people from all over,
Yeah.
around, and kind of united people where you could just sit around and talk about these characters for hours. And I
Yeah.
wanted to create something like that.
And you know what's funny about the X Men, right? Because it connected with all of us, especially us brown folks, right? And
Yes.
as you said, it was people of all walks of life, come from everywhere, and still somehow there was like three black people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Out of all that, there
Yeah.
was three of us.
Just three.
There
But we
was,
were bad, though. We were bad.
I
We were
think there was more green people than there were black people. You know what I'm saying? But
and
that
that's a whole different conversation altogether.
for sure. But the X Men sparked a lot of us our excitement. And kind of like you said, I'm a comic book fan for sure, but I didn't read like comics like that. I really only read what I liked. I didn't grab everything and read it. But I used to collect a lot of Marvel trading cards. So all my knowledge came from like I love reading the back of trading cards. So I had all the knowledge of powers and all that other stuff. You know, I'm one of those guys. I just like to know how they work, what they do, and then my imagination runs itself. I can tell you everything about how they use it and stuff like that. But no, that's fire, and it kind of leads me to my next question. That you tapped into it a little bit, but not all the way. So I'm excited to see where you go with this one. So, who or what are your inspirations?
Oh man, I live by the rule that you should be open to inspiration at any time. So I want to say life inspires me. I could be,
Mm,
because I look at the things that kind of bring me joy in writing, and that bring me joy in the art that I consume. And then, I kind of capture that and use that to fuel my own work. So if I like a movie, I bank that up for
yeah.
inspiration. Why do I like it? What do I love about it? And how can I pass it on in my own work?
Hmm.
So I believe that keeping your wells of inspiration full is such a huge part of the process. So I get inspiration from as many places, as many formats as I can. Like I said, I
Yeah.
have an eclectic movie love, everything from Hitchcock to sci-fi. I'm a big fan of B grade movies, cult classics. It's just something
Yeah.
about those movies that aren't written to be like those Academy Award winning movies that are just highly more enjoyable. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but I just love appreciating art in all of its various forms. I'm inspired by songs. I'm inspired by characters. I'm inspired by people. I'm inspired by even like things that we go through emotively that are difficult. Like I'll just be transparent right now and say, right now I'm going through with a toddler at that terrible two stage. He's already inspired three projects that I want to work on.
Really? That's
Three of them, yes.
that's crazy. That's
So
crazy.
it's infused, and it's kind of infused in me, and that's just kind of how I feed it and keep the writing and the creative um, stuff flowing. Just always stay inspired by whatever.
So life is a major part of your writing, your inspirations, and how you develop your you know how you want to, I guess, how you want people to consume your art is all stems from the life you live and what you experience on your day to day, which I think is fire, because it don't get no more realer than that.
Yes.
You're really pulling from what you love, what you experience on a day to day, and I think it takes a real brave person to express that for the world to embrace it. You know what I mean? So I always give praise to writers and authors such as yourself, such as most people on Concrete, everybody out here. That just if you put yourself out there, I have ultimate respect for you because you're putting yourself at the brunt of opinion and people's words and judgment and stuff like that. So if you can look past that and just say, I don't care what nobody says. This is what I want to do. I want to be a writer. You know what I mean? When did you get that like when did that moment come where you was like, I because I'm sure you transitioned from just writing for fun to me like, nah, I want to sell this. I want to put this on some bookshelves. When did that like fire spark?
Oh man. So I think a lot of it was, first of all, realizing the value of my own voice and the type of story that I could tell. At first, initially, I wanted to do traditional publishing. And, I think that's why the story, the new Spider-Man was such a powerful movie. I felt that on such a deep level because, he wanted to be in these spaces. He knew he had something to contribute, right? But he wanted to be accepted and go through the established kind of arena, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to traditionally publish and, get my voice out there and my works out there because that's what generally you're told to do if you want to be a serious author. And so I just really started putting my stuff out there, querying my stuff just to see if it was good, see what people would say.
Yeah.
And I think the moment where I realized that, first of all, you don't need anybody's permission to tell your story. And where I knew it was valuable is when I put it up on there at the time, I think it was around 2014, there was a website called Swoon Reads.
Hmm.
And it was a subsidiary, it was a part of one of the top 5 publishing companies, Macmillan Publication. And it was kind of like a crowd voting thing. Like you put your stories up there for free. People
Hmm.
read it, they review it, and the books that got the best buzz, that were top quality, they were chosen for a standard contract deal. And today, Swoon Reads is now a subsidiary where you can find an imprint of Macmillan Publications, so you can see their books. But mine was, of course, not chosen. But the feedback I got on it was just people love the story. And then when I look back after kind of that whole ordeal and really looked at the quality of the story, I was blown away because it was not a complete work of, you know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah.
ready
Yeah.
to be aired. It needed further editing.
Yeah.
It needed some revisions, but people loved it. And, I thought if people can love my raw material, I mean, like people were raving like about characters they hated, characters that made
Yeah.
them mad, things that
Hmm.
made them excited. And so to see people like something that I felt wasn't my best quality, I was like, okay, I know when I'm ready, when I get this together, they're going to love it. And so that's when I realized, hey, your voice has value and you don't need permission. So, and
You
I
don't need
kind
no
of had,
permission.
and I
Yeah.
kind of had my own Hobie whispering in my ear. Again, my parents were very
Yeah.
supportive of my creative journey. And my dad was like, why don't you just self-publish? And, around that time we were self-publishing, it had taken off, but indie publishing still had a lot of stigma around it. So I wasn't sure, but after that scenario, I knew I could do it. And so I launched it out there. And what really solidified that and made me know that it was the right choice, I had a teacher contact me, and
Yeah.
she told me that one of her students had read my book several times, and told her that the book had changed her life. My little piece of fiction that I wrote just because I had a story to tell, just because I like to write, had changed
Mhm.
her life. So there was no going back after that. No
Oh,
going
no,
back.
listen, that's a real inspirational story, and I think it's dope because some people would have been broke by that response and not getting picked, not being selected to move forward. But what they don't see is the knowledge you gain from not going through. You get to see what you need to work on, what you gotta tighten up, what you gotta fine tune, and sometimes that's the best gift you could ever get. If you put yourself through and everybody's praising it and giving all kind of love, and they're not being truthful with you, you could go further and then wind up getting that big blow later down the line, and you don't know how to understand it because everyone else told you were fire. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
It's dope,
right.
and it's really dope how your parents and your father definitely, kept encouraging you and steered you in the right way. I remember something my dad told me when I was first getting into music. He said, I thought, I needed a manager and all this stuff like that. I'm stressing because I don't have a manager to do stuff. He was like, what you need a manager to manage your own stuff for? And it hit me like, I don't. But I said, but then it made me set a bar. Like if I'm gonna get a manager, they got to do every single thing I can't do. If I can do what they can do, I don't need them. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's always been hard for me to find a manager. You know what I'm saying? On that accord, because I've always, I like to prepare myself to be able to do what I need to do without anybody. So my train never stops moving. And if I got to drive the train, I'll drive the train. You know.
Yes.
But I think that's fire. So I'm gonna tap into this next question then. What were some of the obstacles you faced as a young writer that
Oh,
almost threw you off that train? Get off here.
okay. So as a young writer, I can say, I used to hand write my manuscripts out. And so something that almost broke me um, was when I let my friend borrow my story and she lost it. That was second grade, but I rebounded from that. But then again, not backing up your work. I had nearly completed a story, and my computer at the time, it rebooted, did not save. And it
Mm-hmm.
almost broke me. I remember sitting in the car with my friend. We were leaving the bank. He had a run to make. And I told him, you know what? I quit. I quit. I finished that story. It didn't save. And, that was so much work. And I remember seeing this little sign. And I say it had to be like a godsend because the sign it was probably as big as this book, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
bigger. One of those like cheerleading signs that, you see kind of along school lines or whatever, but it said never
Mm-hmm.
quit. And it's like as soon as I had said I quit, that's when I saw it. And so I knew from that moment that no matter what I faced, and there were a lot of hard moments, being
Yeah.
able to, it's very difficult to share something that you work so hard of, that you put your whole self into, um,
Mm-hmm.
for people to reject or to critique. Everyone's a critic, especially when they're not writing or doing what you're doing. But for me, that was the hardest. Being able to write something, having it nearly complete, and not being smart enough to back it up. So, to all the writers out there, back your work up, save it to a thumb drive, email yourself, have a Google Doc copy, print a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Have it
think I think that's funny because a lot of music producers can relate to that. You'll make a beat, you'll make a fire beat, and then you go get a drink or something. You come back, that blue screen is up, and you like, oh no 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 no. And
Yep.
you go to find it. It's either say corrupted file or
Oh,
it's like you never made it. But you know what often happens in my triumph to recreate that,
yep.
I create something much better.
Yep.
So it's like it's something always happens, and kind of like that sign that you saw, that message that kind of re-clicked in your head. It reminds me of the story. I was going to my first ever performance. It was downtown Philly. Um, I was nervous. It was my first performance. I'm going to a nightclub. You know what I'm saying? Like on some real 8 Mile type stuff, right? And there was a lot of people walking around because it's a popular place in Philly. It's like down South Street area. It was really popular, kind of like how you would say how that street in New Orleans looks. A whole lot of people walking around. So it's similar to that. And I remember we were walking, me and my two friends, whatever, that are just coming to support me. And I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling like I don't belong already. I want to hopefully I remember my songs. And I remember there was like a homeless guy chilling on the ground, and he was just talking. And he looked at me. He said, "I know who you are. You that big name guy that everybody's gonna know." And I never and that just stuck in my head forever. And I was like,
That's
why would he
awesome.
pick me out to say that? It was so many people there, and he said that right to me. So I'm like, man, that must be something. So ever since then, I've been trying to live out that. Like, well, if I'm supposed to be this guy, let me try to really go for that.
Yes.
And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. Just a random dude, a random guy. So I do got one more. Well, I got another question for you. I got a couple of questions for you, to be honest. Let's, I just wanted to share this one screen with you while I ask this question right here, right here, right here. So tell me about this novella right here.
Oh man, so that's actually a companion to my main novel, Errant. And
Hmm.
Knockout actually was inspired by some of the questions that my readers had
Hmm.
and that I didn't really think of. And when I sat down to think of it, I had to ask myself, what is this character doing? What is his story? Why does he disappear for the amount of time he disappears for? What's up with that? And this book, this novella, I actually wrote it in a month. And when my editor got it, she was like, wow, this is really clean. It's a good story. But essentially, it follows one of the um, main supporting characters
Hmm.
in my main novel. And he's kind of like this mysterious character. And this is me kind of picking apart his character. I love characters. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite parts in writing. And so I got to really dive into who he was, where he came from, and it actually helped to kind of set up some backstory for a lot of the characters in the main novel. Because the main character, she jumps into the middle of this huge, epic battle between these two groups of powerful people. And so this is her and the readers kind of catching up to how that kind of got started and to a little bit more about characters that you may kind of already have fallen in love with. But
Hmm.
it's very fast paced. It's got gritty action. The action for this series, it's the 1201 trilogy. It was inspired a lot by those kind of adrenaline induced action movies like Wanted,
Oh,
Matrix, things like that. So you've got that gritty, intense action that you're going to see that's also interlaced with people that have superpowers. Because again,
mm,
um, Marvel, DC, superheroes have always been a big inspiration. And so if you're looking for fast-paced, fun action with some heart in it, some heartbreaking things, some found family aspects, you're gonna hopefully love Knockout.
so just to let you guys know, this is in my shopping cart. I will definitely be getting this. Now,
Oh.
how can they consume this um, through the PDF version as well?
So yes, so you can get it as a ebook or as a print copy as well. Um, yeah, and it's pretty much available wherever books are sold. You can order it through your favorite store.
Well, that's fine. Now that this one caught my eye a lot when I was reading that description. I was reading that bio. I said, "Hold on now, she got me a little bit here, guys. She got
Right,
me with this one,
right.
because these are my type of stories. Those born identities. Those that Denzel movie Equalizer, stuff like that. I love those type of concepts. Because in this description kind of spoke to me the way that those did. So I definitely will be reading this one. I can't wait to dive into this one for sure. How long did you say Knockout took you a month to write?
It took me a month. The story it was very clear for me to visualize. The character, it's like when I started asking those questions, I could almost see the character telling their story. It kind of unplayed like a movie in my head. So it was very fun and enjoyable process to write. And I had a great crew helping me to develop it, like with the cover and just everything. That whole process was just amazing. So
No, that's
definitely.
fire. That's definitely fire. How many books do you have total?
So right now I have two that are currently out, including Knockout. So the first book, Errant, is out. I'm currently working on the sequel, and that actually was slated to publish like this month. But and one of the things, I'm big on following your instincts, and something just didn't feel right about it. To the point where I didn't even really want to talk about it
Right.
with my readers, and so I knew that I needed to change something. And so I'm currently going through the revision process for the second book, Scarlet, and
Mhm.
I'm really excited. Now I can't wait to share it. So, but it's taking a little bit more work, a little bit more fine tuning because I actually had to adjust a major plot line. It wasn't big enough, and so I'm really excited to kind of bring that story to life because it takes things to the next level. With sequels, you're always scared that it's not going to
Yeah.
be as good as the first one. That fear was obliterated with a lot of the
Yeah.
revision.
No,
Um,
listen, I'm excited. I'm super excited. Like there's so much that you got, like just in the tuck. It's just that you just been creating, you've been writing, you've been doing, so much, and it's like now I think it's just a matter of people realizing that you have so many starting points to your creations where they can go. They can go to the novel, they can join your podcast, they can join everything that you're doing. They can even read some of your blogs, which we're about to tap into on this next question that I got for you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What is your mission with the Concrete blog? Like what do you want people to remember you for from these blogs that you're writing?
so when you came to me, well, first of all, let me back up the train and say um, what really resonated with Concrete Comics, because I started as a fan. And what really resonated with me is that your mission and your vision echoed with a lot of what I wanted to achieve personally with my own writing, which was to create stories about, you know, diversity within the diverse representation. I think
Hmm.
a lot of times you only see certain aspects of diversity within like marginalized communities or underrepresented groups. And it's the same type of narrative. And we're so much more complex. People are so much more messy and interesting than what you see in the popular and the mainstream media. And so when you said that, you talked about how we're not a monolith and how you wanted to show different aspects of Black and Brown and, you know, um, different groups, so that really stuck out. And then to see that diversity in the comics just was mind blowing and just I was blown away by it. And so then after I followed you and you reached out and followed me back and asked to collaborate, I'm like, this is just your platform has so much excellence to it, and just to be a part of that, first of all, is just an amazing privilege, and I'm grateful for it. But I think it's kind of like, the Justice League or any great team that comes together. Now,
Yeah.
working together, you can achieve that singular mission to a greater degree. So I'm grateful. Working with comics, I think, has allowed me to kind of amplify what I was already doing and then what I see that you're doing. And so it's kind of like the same mission,
Yeah.
just in more avenues. And so now when I put stuff out, like for on my own platform or with my own readers, I can introduce them to comics because you guys actually helped me. Like I said, I didn't initially read a lot of comics, but I was in the comic book world. And
Yeah.
now it's like I only read indie comics. I only read, like
Yeah. Yeah.
comics from our community, and there's so much already there that you kind of don't even have to tap into. Like the world is so much larger than DC and
Yeah.
Marvel, and
It's a lot.
so I want to
It's a lot
say,
larger.
we're on the same page, and so I just kind of want to keep that flowing and kind of help however I can and work with, because I don't want anyone to come to be interviewed or to feature anybody, and it's a waste of time. You
Right.
know, I, so however I can amplify that, however I can connect, get people as much bang for their buck, as much support. That's how I want to do it, and so I think this just amplifies everything and makes it even more possible.
I think that's fire. Cause see, Concrete Approved is way before this show. What I'm saying. When I saw your profile, saw what you did, and just saw the quality of what you were doing, you know, in my eyes, I was like, this is somebody that the community needs to see. Somebody that could help me on my mission as well. I like to operate like how Optimus Prime would, or like Vin Diesel with family. I know I can't do this by myself. I can't, and it's going to take a whole community of us to really, to really put a dent into the community to show people that we can definitely, make a major difference. So I just appreciate you, being Montrez and doing everything that you do, and just bringing 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 that quality to the community of people that just want to read dope comics and dope novels, dope blogs. I feel like we can create that. I'm not a blog writer, and I know that. You know what I'm saying? So, but I know what a quality what is, and I know what can build a brand. And it's not even just like I don't do all these things just to build concrete. I'm like, no, that brand needs to build too. So maybe if it can come here and stand up and fly off to the moon, that's just another beacon we have out there that we can shine a light on for the community and people like us that are looking for people like us. You know what I mean?
Yep,
So
thank
no, for
you.
sure.
And I think it's so important because, um, oh, there's a little echo. I'm sorry. But I think it's so important because, we're not competition. It's like you
Right.
said, it's one big family, one big community. And when you succeed, we all kind of, we're all
I'll
succeeding because
succeed.
there's more out there. And like I was telling you earlier, a lot of a lot of books and material, it's all about kind of paying it forward. The joy that you get from reading other stories, being able to pass that on in your own work. And so when I get joy out of reading, Acolyte or
Mhm.
sharing Odina and all I want to share that. And so
You know.
to me, it's all about passing on that joy and, you know, sharing those stories, because another thing that I truly believe is that stories can and do save lives. Um, you can find inspiration from that. It can get you through difficult times. It can answer questions you may have, provide solutions, and you don't even know it until you kind of have that aha moment inspiration. And so I'm all about sharing
Yeah.
good stories and supporting creators who are really out there dropping gems and producing
Yeah.
amazing stories.
Well, I want to welcome you to the war. This is this is the representation war. We're all on the front lines.
Definitely.
Some of us ain't make it out since 2020, but I mean, a lot of us still here, still fighting. And there's it's a mental war. We got to create the content that is safe for our children, for our community, and for people like us, man. We're tired of I would say outsiders writing behind the scenes, but covered in our face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We need to
definitely.
be the people telling our story because we know it. We know what we do. We don't, you know what I'm saying? We're not all one thing. We write differently. We love sci-fi. We love space. We love all these things. So why not give it to them all? And when I created Concrete, I wanted, you know, I I don't really read, spawns and the dark stuff like that. But I know we need it because there's people that love it. So let me get that. So I just wanted to be a place where anything you want as a
as a
fan medium,
medium.
get it.
Get
So
it. So,
and that
Definitely.
kind of
and that
leads
kind of
to my next my second to last question actually. Because I like you said, I really want to help build that brand. You're concrete approved. You're one of the dopest creators out here in the streets, and I need the people to know about that. So my question to you is, what can you tell us about that Patreon of yours?
Okay, so this is fairly new. I kind of started one a while ago, but if you're like me, and I think a lot of creators kind of do, I don't want to ask you for money, but
Mm,
something that Ava DuVernay said really resonated, and that's if your dream is just about you, it's too small. And this dream has always been about connecting with other readers and just connecting with creatives, book lovers, artists, and creatives just all over to kind of enhance the
hmm
environment. You know what I mean? Um, I just want to I want to inspire readers. I want to empower other creatives, and so I am I am an author, so I produce my own works. And like you said, it's just a lot of stuff you want to put out. It's just having the time and the resources to do it. Like I've got a Black Girl Portal fantasy that I want to really do up because you don't see Black Alices and Wonderlands. You don't see Black Kagomes and Inuyasha. You don't see a Black girl that's just able to just explore enchanted lands and have like a wild magical adventure. And so I wanted to create things like that. So the Patreon, you'll be supporting my work, but more importantly, you'll be supporting and helping to sustain the Novel Creature Network, which is just like this platform, conversational, where you can discover new authors, new creatives, and support them. And I can get it out in more accessible forms. There's people who may not like um, visual platforms. So being able to kind of turn that into podcasts, doing different things like that, making sure it's quality. I'm a big perfectionist, so I always like to try to make things bigger and better and enhance it. And then also, I'm an editor, so I do developmental editing for authors. That's actually how I went to school for that. I actually went to school to be a professor, and then ended up deciding I didn't want to do academics. I wanted to follow, my first love. But being able to offer support to other authors, other writers, because it's hard and you need resources. And so being able to have, affordable but quality resources for other writers and other creatives without burning out because your prices are so low and
yeah,
you're scrapping yourself. So when you support the Patreon, you are supporting our community. You'll get my books, you'll get shout outs on the Novel Creature Network. Um, and a very special thing that I wanted to do for anyone who supports for each new book that I have coming out, there's going to be a special page that's dedicated to you in the acknowledgments because
Mhm.
any type of support you give helps. And then also, if this will help to keep prices low for editing.
Yeah.
I try to keep them affordable. I try to. I also want to set up. There's so much I want to do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you
For
can
sure.
do it all by yourself. You really can. But if you don't have to, and if people want to really kind of believe in what you're doing, um, and they want to support, I mean, for a cup of coffee or
Yeah.
two, you can really make a difference in kind of helping me to, in the long game, produce these quality works that I feel our community deserves and helping other authors and artists to do that too.
I think that's fire. And as you were talking, like I was just thinking about certain ideas for your Patreon.
Mhm.
And I could see like a master class on how to be a blog writer because that's a question I get a lot. People ask me, how do I become a blog writer? How do I become a novelist? What does an editor do? These are things that your platform could easily teach and promote.
And
And
That's one of the many things that I would love to do. I'm actually developing some courses now because as an editor and as a writer, there are a lot of things that I'm seeing that I feel like, could be some extra training, some extra support could definitely help with. And so those are some other things in the works. And I want to be able to offer those for free or low cost. And so if you support the Patreon, that makes it possible. Some other things I wanted to do was being able to have like a book godmama fund where maybe once a year I can just help somebody produce their whole first book. That takes money, that takes time. And I would love to just do it for free all the time. But, we have to sustain our own well so that we can keep going and helping where we can. And so if you love the content, if you're about that, please, for as little as $5 a month, you can help to support and see where it's actually going and see the change that you're making.
I definitely got some other ideas I'm gonna kick to you offline because I don't want people stealing it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no. For some reason, I'll say this one. For some reason in my head, I see a Patreon event for you. It's called Ladies Night, right? And it consists of like Tosh from Midnight Comics, Carla, you.
That would be awesome.
Maybe my wife, whoever, but y'all, it's like a round table of creatives, and I think that would be fire. That right there will be a selling point, like in another beacon to Black women in the industry, which it's a rarity. I tell Tosh and Carla that all the time. Y'all are a rarity in this field, and y'all could really become the face of it because there's no one really doing it. There's no one really stepping in front of it and saying, I am her. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this. So I feel like y'all have so much potential. Y'all ceiling is limitless to what you can do. It really just takes that Nick Fury mentality, to just put it all together, put the plan and see that plan all the way through. And I think it'll happen. You know what? I don't think it'll happen. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And this drops to my last question, man. For all the people out there, drop a gem of inspiration.
So I'm all about that blur inspiration. That's actually kind of like my thing, Black nerd inspiration. So there's a lot of things that I probably could say, but I'll say this. First impressions are important, but it's the lasting impression that really matters. So I don't care how many times you may have gotten up, fallen, failed, made a mistake. It's not over until you quit. And you can always keep trying. You can always get better. So I don't care where you're at, what happened yesterday. Get up, keep going, and make it happen. You got this.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a real gold. I will be chopping that. That will be the one right there. Fire. I like that one. I actually felt that one a lot. You know what I'm saying? I like that. It ain't over till you quit. I like that. Sounds like something Captain America might say. You know what I mean?
A lot of my little stuff, I say it to myself first, and then I share it just in case anyone else is feeling that way.
It ain't over till you quit. I like that one a lot. I like that one a whole lot. I think that, you know what? And that's a wrap, y'all. This is why we do Konkret Approved, for that inspiration, for them gems, for that knowledge, and for you guys to hear a story, man, to know that you can do this. You can do this too. It's nothing stopping you but you. There's obstacles, but the obstacles are there to make you stronger, to build you up, and to turn you into something that you didn't know you could be. So hit them obstacles head on. Go for the gold, man. Go for the highest point you can reach. If you fall short, guess what? You went way further than you thought you could, right? So y'all know the vibes, man. Montrez, thank you so much for coming to Konkret Approved. This was fire.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You know what it is. I'm going to hit my cue. See you on the other side.